Commence primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2 for 1. I'm your host, Donovan Thompson, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
and today we are back again with Travis Mosler. Travis, what's up?
Hey, clapped himself in. That's good. That's
There
good.
you go. Perfect.
We usually snap, but claps can work in a pinch. So
We can do claps. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, the notification bell. That way, if you're all future episodes of Podcast 2 for 1. And of course, now we are sponsored by Kapow Comics on 4047 East Kill Avenue in Sherwood, Arkansas. Go check those guys out. They have a lot of cool things, new issues on Wednesdays, a lot of cool graphic novels, and of course, they have special guest appearances as well, periodically throughout the year. Check those guys out. All right, guys, we're talking Jupiter's Legacy. It just came out on Netflix not too long ago. It stars Josh Duhamel. Eight episodes, I believe, and it's part of this Mark Miller deal that Netflix bought a couple of years ago. They paid Mark Miller a fuck ton of money, and then they get to make some of his stuff. Like I know Kick-Ass is in the works, and Jupiter's Legacy seems like it's the first one out of the gate. I of course wanted to watch it, then just because of what it was, and then actually I saw it. I was like, I'm not sure about this, but I started watching it, and then I was in pretty hard, and I was telling you guys, watch it. Let's kind of go down the line here. Travis, start with you. What did you think about Jupiter's Legacy?
Jupiter's Legacy. I thought it just like you said, it caught me at the beginning, just because we've been watching a lot of superhero stuff lately.
Yeah.
A lot of Main Street stuff and some offshoots, these other types of shows like Invincible and The Boys and stuff like that. So right out of the gate, this was a unique take on it, that there was some mystery, there was some slow burn. The main characters, the story takes place over the course or over about a century. You're cutting back and forth between the origin stories of all these people and nowadays. And from a concept standpoint, I liked it a lot. From like the superhero origin and the world itself and how these heroes came to be and the mythos of the Jupiter, calling these people, I thought was amazing. I thought it was really cool. From a story and a character standpoint, I think there wasn't as much development for all the younger characters that there were for the older ones, save for the two kids of the Utopian. But even them, like, I think we could have had more there.
Right.
But there, I feel like this is one of those shows that is, for me, so close to being just incredible. But for just a few reasons that I'm sure we'll get into in the podcast, it missed in a couple of really key places for me that would have taken it over to the next level. That being said, I watched the whole thing. I was, from one episode to the next, excited to see the next thing, excited to see what the payoff is going to be at the end, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good show.
Right.
So
Daniel?
Short take. I'm
I
a little bit on the
want
other side
your
of the
long
coin.
take here in a second.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead. Sorry, Daniel.
I was not impressed a lot by Jupiter's Legacy, and I feel like I am starting to feel a little bit of not superhero fatigue, but superhero deconstruction fatigue, almost, where it's like, oh, but it's superheroes, but it's different than you've seen before. Sure. I actually didn't feel like they did much unique. Yes, we've never necessarily seen this exact combination of. I mean, I don't know. We probably have, actually. Like, I feel like a lot of the themes they were going with of like superheroes of the past, where morals were easier, being confronted with real world problems. I feel like we've seen that in Marvel movies. We've seen that. I mean, that's Captain America. That's Captain America's journey. Is this that theme of this show, right? Of, but it was the Nazis and everything was just the way it was supposed to be, and now I'm in the real world. There's shades of gray. Blah blah blah.
I feel like there was. I feel like shows like the Umbrella Academy actually did a lot of what this was trying to do, but better. Where have you guys seen Umbrella Academy seasons 1 and 2?
Can't get into it.
I couldn't get into it either from
I don't
season
know
one.
why.
Like it just
I really enjoyed it, especially the end of season 1. But that one almost felt like a better, like, because I feel like what they were going for was this, like, I don't even know, this kind of family melodrama in the present, and then this like adventure movie of the past, I guess, like almost Indiana. I don't know, like there was a lot going on. I just feel like there was a lot of melodrama. There was a lot of scenes that would happen that I was like, what was the point? And honestly, the action was not impressive to me. There was times where like that fight, I think it was episode 6, when I'm gonna blank. I'm not gonna say her name right. It's Sheldon's wife, white-haired superhero
Lady Liberty.
Lady Liberty, of course. Which, don't you dare tell me that's the first time that name's been used somewhere. Goddamn. But she's like fighting this guy, and he like shoots powers, and they take this super long slow motion moment, and all she does is kind of like slide under it and come around, and then just turns and looks at him, and nothing's happened. And they took 15 seconds for nothing to happen in slow motion. And I was just like, what is going on? So yeah, I had some problems, and we can get into more of them, but I just felt like I've seen everything that they're trying to do, but better already. And whether it's in the mainstream MCU or it's in the offshoots like The Boys, The Umbrella Academy, Invincible. And I felt like most of the characters felt a bit half-baked. Like their motivations don't quite pan out if you just follow the logic thread, or they just like his son, like Sheldon's son, who's just this kind of generic son superhero that just his role is to be the guy that can't live up to his dad. That's his part of the whole story, is I can't live up to my dad. That's encompasses him.
And his like big growth moment in the show happens off screen, and he like explains it to his dad in a conversation of like, it just kind of clicked for me and I just figured it out.
Yes, that was like what?
Yeah.
And so I just feel like
fair.
There's just a lot that I think there's some characters that I enjoyed at times, and there were some moments that I enjoyed at times. I wish honestly the whole show was just in the past, because I honestly preferred everything in the past to everything in the future. Everything in the past felt much more tight and focused. I mean, they were towards a specific goal. Everything was revolving around that. And in the present, it was like, oh, I don't think we've seen Sheldon in present day for like 2 episodes at one point. I'm like, what's he been doing? You know what I mean? So yeah, it was a bit all over the place for me. I'm not like never watching the show again, but I'm definitely like, I'll probably wait for reviews for season 2.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think all that's fair though. And I lean more a little bit towards Travis, just because for some, I don't know what it is, but I really gravitated towards the flashback sequences. And you mentioned Indiana Jones. It's definitely kind of what it feels like, at least in the second half, when they're kind of on the boat and the adventure kind of stuff. I think I just like the aesthetic, and I like I don't know, it's something about it. I really gravitated I really leaned towards it. And I kept coming back for that, and I think I was just so like curious as to what the mythos was, and like the voices calling to him, and like even I can't think of the actor's name, but it's Red Foreman from the '70s show. That. He just shows up for this like table scene, and that was really good. Like to me, that kind of scene was like, man, what's going on? Is this, it kind of kept me coming back. I started the show, and I kept thinking, I had to work all weekend, like on other stuff, but I kept like, oh, I'll just watch one more episode. And then I kept kind of doing that all weekend long until finally I finished it within 2 days. What are you going to say, Daniel?
I was going to say Matt Lanter's character, George, who's ends up. By the way, that's Anakin Skywalker's voice actor in the Clone Wars.
Oh,
yeah.
He may have. If you listen at times, you're like, oh yep, that was General Skywalker.
That's awesome. I didn't know
I
that.
feel like the production design around him was make him look like Chris Evans, because at times he would just turn. I'd be like, motherfucker, that's Chris Evans. You know what I mean? Like it
Gotcha.
he
definitely has the pretty boy look. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was gonna. Sorry, the real thing I wanted to say was the best part of the show for me was I agree at the end with the island stuff. That stuff was the juiciest, the most interesting, and I honestly felt like the most executed well portion of the show.
Yeah, and I definitely want to talk more about the end there. And I actually, it's funny you said that, because like the end to me is probably the most problematic part with the flashback stuff. But overall, I enjoyed it. I mean, I burned through all the episodes. I felt like ultimately this was like it was leading to the show that I want to see. This was like the prequel to the movie that I really want to see, kind of thing. It's definitely stuff in the present where I was kind of like, oh, this is like all build up to season 2. Like season 2 is where all the good stuff could potentially happen, you know. But anyway, I want to kind of dive more deep into it. You're right. In the present, not a whole lot happens other than we know that there's this superhero family. An incident happens where Walter kills a clone of this bad guy, it turns out. And there's this kind of push and pull essentially with some people think that he should have been able to kill because, you know, it obviously saved some people. And then, of course, we have Josh Duhamel's character. His whole thing is we have these rules, and if we break from those rules, then obviously, you know, it could create some problems. That seems like the underlying theme, and you mentioned it, Travis, as well, as this generational gap. And you also mentioned, Daniel, of this idea of like, you know, the morality between the Nazi generation versus the moral gray area today, which, you know, I kind of mentioned while you were talking. Watchmen's a good example of that. Of, you know, we have the old Watchmen who are, you know, we're goody two shoes and there's right and wrong, and then there's this moral gray area now, and it's this trying to turn the superhero thing on its head.
It had a lot of Watchmen vibes with the old, like, oh yeah, we made this team and we set the standard, but then one of them betrayed us. Like that felt very Watchmen.
Sure.
For sure.
What do you guys think about, let's talk about the present, because I want to talk about the past second. The present storyline here, we're trying to, ultimately the big thing is we're trying to figure out who this clone is, who's controlling that, and then at the same time we have the two kids of the Sampson children. We have the boy who can't live up to it, who basically spends a lot of the time on the farm, which is a weird thing. And then we have,
and just not on screen. Just like he's like in caps the whole show almost.
It is weird. And then we have the daughter who has the more interesting stuff, of course, where she's trying to be this model. And I mean, I personally like the thing where she throws the vehicle during the model shoot. But that's kind of the present day stuff we have. Can you break this down for me, guys? What hit for you and what didn't hit for you, Travis?
The mystery of how there's two versions of this bad guy was interesting to me.
Sure.
You know, them trying to figure that out was the more interesting of the two main plots in the modern day story. I mean, you had that, and then you had the character drama, which I didn't find myself really rooting for anybody. Particularly Paragon, the son, I just couldn't figure out his motivations and why he just wanted to. I mean, and he kind of explained it really like on the nose a few times, but it still just didn't add up. And then Chloe just kind of rebelling just for the sake of it kind of thing. And I didn't know if we were going to see some type of redemption arc for her, and maybe we will eventually, but what that was going to look like. And then it looks like right now that she's kind of going the other way with the son of the bad guy, but all of that character,
bad guy. The twist at the end throws everything on its head.
Right. One of the bad. Yeah, I don't know, man. But that wasn't as captivating for me as the mystery of how you know the the evil guy who's in jail, who is also out of jail, and all that stuff. And then parallel to those two storylines is just the constant struggle with the code, which is the kind of moral compass of the characters, and what you're talking about, the changing of the times of morality and stuff like that. That to me, that's one of the things that I think they missed in a pretty big way. Just because how much they amped up this code, especially in the character of the freaking utopian, is just like, this, I live for this. This is everything. And they have that moment where he's talking to the shrink, who turns out to be like a bad guy in jail.
Which I thought was great. I thought that's a great little thing.
That was a great twist.
It was a funny twist. Like in the moment, I was like, "Oh shoot!" Like that was.
But it was
cool
a cheap narrative device up to that point. Of
That's
just
true.
Main character going to a therapist, talking about what's on his mind, rather than using narrative and plot to explain.
It was a little bit of a shortcut narrative device to get him to explain why the code is so significant to him. But in the flashback, when we got the only way that they won, that they were able to open the gateway and go to Jupiter, is because they abided by this code. They didn't turn against each other and kill each other. And so that's where I was like, oh, this actually has significance. The fact that this code is the reason how they got here in the first place means something. And so I thought that there was going to be some type of full circle repercussions of that, like as the code starts to be taken for granted or avoided in some ways, like maybe some people lose their powers when they break the code, something like that. But we don't get any kind of follow up of the mysterious Jupiter spirits that bestowed these people.
I'll take it one step further. We don't know how anyone else got powers.
Well, they're all offspring, I believe.
There's
like
that.
Every one of them?
Well, here's the thing.
So.
It's
even the bad
offspring.
guys?
Well, listen.
All the
it's
supervillains?
Yeah, that's not a...
But listen, it happens like what year does it happen in?
Did they go to a sperm bank? I mean, maybe they went to a sperm bank.
I've got the explanation.
Okay.
So whatever year it happens when they get their powers, there is the group of sailors that mist flies over and hit those group of sailors, and they're sailors and they dock multiple places. And through that, I didn't read this anywhere, but that was, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, that's how everyone got their powers around the world, was these guys went and fucking had sex with people across the world. And there's not a whole lot of superpowered people. You could say
there
that
seems
those
to be quite a few. I don't know.
I think they just leave it open to the interpretation that this is a superhero world. Like inevitably there ends up being super evil bad guys and super people from other areas and places.
It just, again, I think it's a little bit of the both thing.
I'm sure that bad guy is some type of alien from somewhere.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Travis. Continue.
I'm sure aliens exist in this world.
Oh, sure. Maybe.
But regardless, that's one of those things that the writers
Jupiter
feel like was important.
And one of those people there.
Yeah,
aliens.
True.
Well, technically, it was on the moon of Jupiter because you see Jupiter, but
that's true. Why isn't it named Jupiter's Moon's Legacy?
Jupiter's moons.
These are the real questions.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, like you're right. Well, you know what? I'll say this. I think that I wasn't maybe paying attention too much because I know that there was those 3 challenges. I kind of feel like those challenges were very, very quick and easy to accomplish. Like personally in the episode, I didn't really take into account how they mimicked the code in the present, just because I don't know why. I just didn't. I guess because for some reason it just didn't land with me. But that's a great explanation of why it's so important to him. I do think that would have been a great way. Either Josh Duhamel, his character actually kills, was it Brainwave or whoever? No, not Brainwave. Whoever the bad guy was, the alien guy. If he actually killed him, would have been interesting.
Yeah, and apparently he was like about to, or he was like thinking about it.
He wasn't. that whole thing. The only payoff there was I was going to it. He's basically like, yeah, I believe you, but he doesn't believe me for 1 second.
Well, they do a shot where they show his eyes like heat up, where there's like, oh, he's gonna do it, where they think like the viewer is like, oh no.
Yeah.
But then Paragon comes in and it just kind of stops.
I think
that is true. I mean, the code thing, I don't know I don't know why that just didn't click with all of the main characters. That's like, so why were we the only ones that it let in here? I mean, they even had a monologue from the Lady Liberty character who's like, don't you see? None of these other people made it because they were fighting each other and they were killing each other. And that's why they didn't make it.
But here's the thing, like, not killing each other because you're trying to work to, like, that's one thing that I don't, I feel like they kind of extrapolated that into no death ever. You know what I mean?
And maybe like, he did.
Where it was kind of like, okay, we had to like work together and not like be like violent to the point where we're just willing to kill people easily. But I feel like there's nothing about those trials or the code that was like, oh yeah, but if it's you or if it's your family and all your friends and all the superheroes around here or this bad guy, you got to let the superheroes die. That's your choice because we don't kill. And I also feel like it just feels, the world feels very unrealistic when they're trying to pretend like this is just now a problem. You know what I mean? It kind of feels that like, oh, well, and they try to address it. They tried to address it with the therapy where he's like, oh yeah, you've just constructed your own world. Like you've just, you're in denial basically. But denial for 90 years is a long time to operate and never have that world shattered by reality that we're there. It feels like they're trying to present a realistic, like our history happened kind of world to an extent.
Well, it's not denial if it's rooted in like what Travis is saying is that it's almost like a religion that helped generate this power.
The therapist talked to him that mainly he's saying that you're using this code as a device to retain significance for yourself. Like by having everyone recognize and acknowledge and respect this code, like you're seeing that as you're staying relevant, and basically.
Which I didn't buy that part of it. That to me didn't resonate anywhere else in the show for me at all.
Yeah,
I didn't see Utopian in any way kind of like a selfish type of character. He was
it feels like he's questioning what he's always known to be true. Kind of moments, but again, it just feels like, but why? I mean, like the only thing that's really doing that is his son killed someone. Like that's really the only thing that's
and at the end of the day, like you're absolutely right. Like the for him, the character moments that felt the most significant were when you could see him grappling with his entire worldview.
Yes,
where he was deciding like, is the foundation of my life even there? Like everything that I have known and believed, like I'm starting to acknowledge and recognize the flaws in it. And that felt really vulnerable and felt really right. And at the end of the series, there was no growth.
Yes. Right. And it was just like, change. Oh wait, you know what?
There was no,
you didn't have to worry. Everything was actually fine underneath. And I felt like the ways they tried to poke at the code, like, oh man, when that other Supergirl's dying in Lady Liberty's arms and she's like, but I didn't break the code.
I didn't break the code.
She dies and I'm just like, God damn, God, like that. You could have been a little more subtle. Okay. You could have just had a little bit of like, I mean, this is how SpongeBob would have done this scene. Okay. You know what I mean? Like this is how they would have done it. And I'm just like,
close there.
Exactly. You can imagine it. You can imagine it. And it's just like, wow. I just needed to point out that the very thinly veiled motifs of like Utopia looking like the classical version of God and his son looking like the classical version of Jesus, like dark-haired, scruffy face, long hair, white guy with white beard, white hair. It was too much. Like it was just a little too hard on that thing, I think. 1 second, I'm gonna see what my son wants. Y'all continue.
Yeah.
I hear all these complaints. I really do, and I think they're super valid. I really do. Yeah,
these are things, just like I said, that separated this show for me from being excellent. I still enjoyed it. I think it still had a lot of potential and stuff. Yeah. There's just a few, like it got it to the like 15-yard line.
Right.
In all these different kind of areas. And for one reason or another, like dropped the ball for me.
I do want to talk in.
You're frozen. I don't know if the internet's working or not, but please stand by for a message from. Oh, are you there?
I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Can you hear me?
Back.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I had my
Jesus,
phones on that
okay.
whole time while I was
Jesus.
dealing with something else. And so I was just like listening to Travis, like just
Apparently.
drown. I'm not the host of the
Apparently,
show and I'm the only one left.
Well,
It's
hey,
prob-
welcome to the Travis podcast.
It's probably
That's great.
because it's raining and the weather and everything else right now, and also the internet here sucks. Yeah, no, I was going to talk about Skyfox in the present, and ultimately how this reinforces. I'm going to kind of touch about the past stuff too. Did you think it was a bad idea to only have him appear at the end versus like kind of give them trouble throughout the whole season? Does that make sense?
I liked that. In fact, I was gonna bring up that I did enjoy the thing with his son, and
Yes.
even when Sheldon, when Utopia, when he has those like conversation with him, when he like flies down and sees him and it's like, I want to talk to your dad. Like, do you know where your dad is? And they warp to the strip club and he's like, yeah, my dad sent, this device, I guess my dad made, whatever. Like, I really liked that stuff. And I thought that was maybe the most intriguing part of the present day stuff was this, like, what's his son's deal? Cause I actually, out of all the superheroes, he was my favorite. He was the most likable. Like, I was just like, I want to spend time with this guy because
He's the most
real.
interesting character in this show.
Yes.
Or pretty darn near close.
He was.
Like anytime that he was on screen, his stories, like his sequences and stuff were just the coolest. And
they were, like, when he kills the big man, that whole scene, that was really cool. When he's like shark infested
Big
waters,
man's heart.
and he's like, common misconception, it still obeys me. It doesn't matter who's holding it. Like,
Yeah.
that's great. That stuff was awesome. And it's almost like the show should have been the past stuff and present day just him. Like, almost like that would have made it better in a lot of ways, because I feel like I think the present's biggest issue is that it was all over the place. Now we're with this character, now with that character, and it was trying to tell like a constant narrative through 10 different characters and like 4 different mini plots, and I think it just felt jumbled by the end.
that's hard to sustain.
It is
Just period.
But let's talk about the finale, and again how it's reinforced through the narrative of the past of Josh Duhamel's character, basically bringing these people together. I mean, you learn in the end that his brother's actually kind of been orchestrating some of this from the get-go, right? Did you guys catch that early on, that his brother could potentially be a bad guy involved, or because it kind of starts mirroring the past. Whenever they were holding almost each other's hand or whatever, when they're climbing the rocks, I kind of thought, man, he's got some umbrage against him. So maybe that kind of tipped me off a little bit. What did you guys think about the finale? And then I want to double back down on the past stuff, but in terms of Skyfox and his brother Brainwave.
Sure. I think the finale, it was fine. I mean, we discussed the issues with Utopia and Paragon's role in the finale and how that just kind of completely fell flat. Honestly, it was an anticlimactic finale, but by the end of the show, I was expecting that. If that my hopes were not high for this being a really cool big bang in the end. And so I do feel like the whole twist with George or Dr. What was his name? Sky
Brainwave. Oh,
well, no, the person we thought was the villain the whole time.
Skyfox.
Starfox. George. Starfox. Exactly. Yes.
Do we know his powers, by the way? Do they ever mention his powers?
He just can build anything, I guess.
Wait, who? Starfox?
Skyfox. Yes, Starfox. Yeah.
Do a barrel roll. Yes, Starfox. No, it's not Skyfox. Yeah.
I don't remember them telling him. I know he built his son's
Skyfox
little
is
device.
telekinetic and has superhuman strength, speed, and the ability to fly, and invulnerability, which I guess means he's
super
thick skin.
He's another
on Wikipedia. It says he is imprisoned in some extra dimensional space. I'm like, what? That didn't happen.
Well,
it seems like his power set is a combination of Brainwave and
Utopia.
Utopian,
Well,
Gotcha.
which is cool.
I think what I felt like, what I was expecting, I feel like I knew there was going to be a twist. Like I knew that I was pretty positive that the guy they were setting up as the villain. The guy they were setting up the villain was probably like, especially when they had that conversation early on where it's like, and in fact, I think he's talking to his brother, which this is now I'm thinking about this makes sense, where Utopia is like, yeah, he was a good man. He thought what he was doing was right. And his brother's like, man, he turned on us. He betrayed us all. And that was like the two. And now at the end where Skyfox is like, indicates that Brainwave influenced everyone else to believe that he was what happened. And knowing Brainwave's powers, to me, it seems obvious that Skyfox was always good, was never betrayed them, and that Brainwave orchestrated all of this for reasons unknown to this point or whatever.
Just because he doesn't like him.
I guess.
According to the
I don't
past.
get enough in the past to make that jump. You know what I mean? It's not like they hated each other through the journey.
Yeah, well, it's like what's his name? George or Walter, the brother, is just always ignored. No one listens to my ideas. Like I work so hard, and you get all the credit.
More than that. I hope it's
and
more
he's bitter and angry and jealous. And so like from all of that flashback stuff, it's like I believe that he went bad, but I'm not like, oh no, my gosh.
Sure.
Exactly. Like it was like I knew someone was going to be bad that we didn't expect, and that the bad guy that was isn't actually that bad or something.
Yeah. I think Skyfox is still, I mean, he may be more morally great than anything, but I still don't think he's a great guy. I think it would be.
Do you know what he's done?
He's embraced his circumstances. I feel like he's just like.
That's what I feel like.
Did we ever find out what he did or how he betrayed them?
We don't, which I think is what season 2's flashbacks.
But
they do go into it about that much. Basically, it was beliefs about the code.
Yeah.
See, to me that means he's totally good. Like he never was bad. Like to me that means like and that you know that the guy
they just make it sound like he started to get more aggressive about it and lost his way.
But that could have been all Brainwave. He could have manipulated him to think that, or even manipulated that guy to do it that way. Like all of that. We've not gotten any evidence
we figure out in the finale, but like we don't
have any hard evidence that says Fox is bad or we have never seen him do bad things, and we have not been told of anything bad he's directly done, have we?
We haven't, but I feel like I don't know why, and I haven't been told this, I don't know this, but I feel like Skyfox could have got to Sheldon if that was the case. Like if it's like, hey, Brainwave's doing this, like I don't know, I feel like that would have been an easier get than. I still think he's probably doing some bad stuff. He's not the only player in town anymore, sort of thing. Maybe.
I don't know. I feel like he may have just thought, you know what, Brainwave's in control. I can't do anything. I'm not more powerful than his brain powers. I'm just going to do my own thing or hatch a plan
for 60
wait
years,
a long time.
For 40 years, whatever it is. That's a long time.
I think it's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, again, we have not seen we've only been told he's bad. And mainly the person telling us that is Brainwave. When Utopia has talked about him, he's been saying he was a good man in a bad situation. That's the only thing we've heard, other than Brainwave saying he's evil.
Well, he did get FaceTime with Lady Liberty in the bad guy's brain.
Yeah, and he seems not very nice.
I know.
Yeah,
I just think
I think
that's
a pretty
that's a
confrontational.
facade. I personally think that.
Sure,
but I mean, okay, riddle me this. Could Skyfox's whole existence in that brain have been a total facade by Brainwave in the first place?
Why not?
But didn't he? I'm trying to think. Did he not fight Brainwave though? Skyfox? I could have sworn he fought. I'm pretty sure they fought.
Yeah,
didn't they?
But
that could have been that. He could have orchestrated that too.
We have seen
all of that
Brainwave
could be a projection.
Realities.
Sure. Okay,
but I mean,
and again, just knowing he's
playing 4D
nefariousness now.
But if that,
like,
if
how
that
can
was
you trust anything he says?
So and I bring that up just because the details of that in Brain Encounter are a little foggy to me because it's been a little bit since I watched it. But so Walter is pulling the strings or bad. Like I forget exactly how
he's the one behind
bringing
Battlestar,
back
or whatever that guy's name is.
Right, but Sky Fox, he's putting the blame on Sky Fox, but Sky Fox was in his head. But that's why I'm like,
and also the only reason his daughter's involved is because she felt like he needed help. Was that what was that? What it was?
He went to her.
Yeah,
he went to her. But I know the thing was, he's like, I didn't. Well, he has a line. Is I didn't want to get you involved, but so and so, Lady Liberty, basically, or no, she got into this head.
She got into the brain with him and figured out what was really going on.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And then he kills
and
her.
He was
so
like,
obviously, he kills his own daughter. Obviously, the ultimate. You're a bad guy.
Come on, come on.
Yeah. She seemed like a shitty person too. So no loss.
Well, I don't think they wanted us to care too much or something. I don't know.
Sure. Well, let's talk about. We're kind of running out of time. Let's talk about the flashback stuff. This to me was the most interesting part of the show. I think I was just. We already know they got their powers. We know that someone had fallen off the team, and we know what they're dealing with in the present. But to me, for some reason, again, I think I was just more concerned with like the mystery and what it all meant, and we still didn't really get a lot of those answers. But it was cool seeing the adventure, and I'm a sucker for that kind of thing. So I think that's where I like that part. I love like putting the hand on there and the colors. Like to me, that's cool. I do wish that we had got some stronger answers, but again, I feel like this is the prequel to the actual movie kind of thing, So
yeah, all the production design of that final like expedition to the gateway was amazing, and even on the moon where everything's going on. I mean, the fact that they're each individually seeing who they need to see to receive that message was very cool. Like it was clear we were dealing with a supernatural presence of something going on that they might not ever explain.
I feel like some things that happened leading up to that, like I would be like his whole dad talking to him, like, and taunting him constantly. And that apparently is a common theme with people who go through this, according to
who are you
Red.
Seeing? Like,
yeah, it's always someone close to you. And I still don't know what that was. That just a figment of his imagination? Was that the aliens trying to test him or push him to the brink?
I think it is part of the vetting process. It's like you can.
It's a very cruel vetting process that
you
don't opt in. Apparently, you get a lot of.
Well, you get a lot of power if you go through.
Right, but you don't choose to opt in, and if you lose, you kill your whole family and yourself.
At least for that guy.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that's why it's like, I mean, you got to go through all this stuff because there is some ultimate purpose to all of this that we still don't really know. And I would love, I mean, Donovan, you talk about like season 2 being like the actual thing where it's like the real present day conflict. I'd love to delve into the archaeological like documentation of what all of this means and find somebody who plays the role of like, oh, I know how you got your powers. And I'm like, what? How do you know? And it's like, yeah, because my great-great-grandfather was looking for this treasure and documented all this stuff. Right. And like, they know it's like, you don't understand. There's some great cost or risk to what you've done in unlocking this power or giving access to this. And, I mean, there's a lot of directions I could take it, but I'd love to explore that because that for me, again, it was one of the more interesting parts of the show.
I wish they had just doubled down. Honestly, like I wish the whole first season had been the past, and then we get to the like at the end of the first season, we see the present for the first time. Like I think that would
be
and honestly, like I really liked the whole like trying to put the team together while he's going crazy. Like that was like, and I just wish they had like expanded that without just doing the same things over and over. Which by the end of it, I was like, okay, like when they're on the boat, he just keeps going more crazy, and they're just like, "Wow, he's crazy!" Like it just like he felt like it was the same scene and nothing happening again, like over and over.
That's his process. Okay,
I told you, he's just working things out. No, he's crazy.
Also, George is a really good guy. He's like, he's got to work through this, and it's like we're going on a boat in the middle of
he's like
nowhere.
The most compassionate towards him the whole time in the past. Yeah, he's the one that's always defending them, the one that's always like, even when he's talking to is it Walter, the brother, and he's like, "Why are you doing this?" And he's like, "Because I know he needs this. I don't believe it."
Which just further lends itself to the fact that I don't think he's the big bad that everybody says he is.
I think he's almost the same way, where he's like, "I know they need to go through this," or like whatever. Yeah.
But I mean, they did paint him as like kind of this rich D-bag type of dude, but then you see this compassionate side of him. Yeah, and what he's willing to do for his friends and stuff.
Even when he does that to it with his friend after he loses everything. He loses his riches, and then he still does that. So it's kind of like a validation of his character.
Here's my pitch real quick for season 2 and 3. Season 2, we see the flashbacks of the team working together. We see them Sky Fox's fall, and of course we deal with Sky Fox versus them and versus Brainwave. Or the realization that Brainwave is the big bad. And at the same time, maybe we also find out more about the mythos. Maybe it's kind of like, not invincible, but maybe the powers that be that give them the powers is more nefarious than good. Maybe it's something bad having these kind of powers. And maybe season 3 is dealing with the mythos and that kind of thing.
They made them have this code so when the aliens come to conquer them, they won't kill anyone. They'll just try to take us all to jail and we'll just wipe them out. It'll be great.
The code.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, I've enjoyed it. I want to see what happens. I'm curious enough. I don't think it's a slam dunk yet. But what, Daniel, I just want to know from you before we wrap up, what does the show need from you from you, like to make it go forward?
Yeah, I think if it's going to, because of the first season, maybe it needs me as the editor. That's what it needs. I'll say because of the format of the first season, I feel like we're locked into jumping between the past and present for the rest of the show, which I think is a little bit disappointing for me. But if that's what we're at, which is where we're at, because I agree. I think next season is all about Star Fox and his original. It's going to be flashing between what happened originally and why, or if he betrayed them, to the present where we're dealing with the revealing of. I'm guessing by the end of the season we'll know what actually happened, and everyone will know that Walter, mind guy, is the actual bad. Like that'll be like the process of. So what they need to do is, if you're going to jump back and forth, they got to be tight. I've got to remember what was happening with a character when we come back to in the present. And it's like, I can't get back to Paragon and been like, where has he been for 2 episodes? Like, what has he been doing? And like
contemplating on this farm. And I figured out.
Yes.
I think the code is good.
You got to focus on it. You got to pick your characters in the present, double down on them, make them interesting, give us plots that are not scatterbrained. I think you double down. I mean, you have to double down on Utopia just because of his role in the show. You double down on his daughter because she was great. I agree with you, Donovan. She was one of the better actors. There was some like Lady Liberty at times, like when she comes down at that one building and she's like, "What's the sit rep?" And I'm like, no, didn't believe that. Didn't believe that. That felt like CW right there. In fact, there was a few times where I was like, did CW co-produce this? Because I don't know. No offense, guys. I know you like some CW shows, but that moment right there felt like local network cable superhero. What's the sit rep? I don't know. Anyway, I double down on Utopia, double down on his daughter. I know.
Speaking of CW,
double down on. Sorry.
I was gonna say, speaking of CW, we have Jess Carson from one of the staff writers of The Flash coming on in a month or so.
That's true.
So that'll be cool. A little plug there coming in the future.
Okay.
Go on, Daniel.
Focus on Utopia, his daughter, Sky Fox's son, the cool dude. Was his name Hutch, I believe?
Yeah,
Hutch. You take those 3 characters and mainly focus on them in the present, and then do whatever you need to do in the past. I think that would really give the show some structure that it needs desperately.
Gotcha. Travis, what is it from you that will
His name is
wrap up?
Hutchins.
Hutchins?
Hutchins. Perfect.
Hutchins.
Great name.
Interesting name.
Why didn't they call him Double Hutch?
You didn't. Or Hutch squared.
One thing that hang on, what was the question? Because I had another thing.
That's why it don't matter. What are you going to say? I don't give a shit.
Well, I was going to say, so one thing that didn't really explain, but they showed it, and it's like, wait a second. One of the original like expedition group heroes that got his powers had the like magic stick, and he was like, this is my power, this is my magic. And then present day, it's like, that's what Hutch has. So somehow that dude's not in the picture anymore. He's not in any of the present day stuff.
Was that the guy they just like found off the shipwreck or something?
Yeah, that was the guy they found floating in the ocean.
I remember I saw him and I was like, who the fuck's this guy? I don't not seen him in the present. And then there was that guy, the other guy, and again, very austere, like just like I felt like they just said, what's a character you find in a superhero show? We'll have one of those. The guy with the mustache that was all like smart assy when he's coming in there and helping. That wasn't
the guy who had the stick in the past.
Thought it was, but I don't think so. They don't look all the same. I don't think so.
Well, I thought it was just the aging and the facial hair
I thought he was one of the originals, and I was like, where is this guy in the past? I was like, I'm searching faces trying to figure out who this guy was, and then I realized he wasn't one of the originals. I don't think.
Really?
I don't think, unless they did a really weird makeup job between the past and present. Like he didn't look like any of them.
So anyway, it's like original guy, Dr. Richard Conrad or whatever, Blue Bolt. Was I don't know, that's his name. But apparently something happens to him and his little magic stick gets reprogrammed for Hutch. And that's that.
Yeah, I didn't realize that, but that makes,
Well, then who's the guy who's
they were like, why do you get that little thing?
Well, who's the guy in the present then? Like, what's his name? I don't know. Talking about
the guy that comes in and helps him for like 2 episodes and then never shows up.
Yeah, I thought
which guy? What do you explain that?
The guy with they're helping with the autopsy of the first clone they killed, and he's like he has like kinetic powers.
The guy with the wheelchair?
No.
Oh, this guy comes in and warps the reality of the building and then warps it back in like episode 2 or 3.
Let's make young actors look old for the present. Did not work on wheelchair guy.
It did not.
Like it was I was watching All That when they do a skit where one of them dresses up old. Like Amanda Bynes, like let's just spray paint his hair gray. That's all we need to do. Nothing else. It worked.
I'm too old to do this.
I did not see any aging on him other than the hair.
Well, they age slowly.
Like when he's talking to his daughter, I'm like, you guys are the same age. Shut the fuck up. Like his daughter might be older than him in that scene.
Anyway, I think that Blue Bolt is the guy. I think it's the same guy. I do think it is.
But he doesn't have. Why isn't he Blue Bolt anymore? Now he's just like kinetic.
Why doesn't he have his magic stick?
Well, I don't know. They didn't tell us that. I'm just telling you what.
No, it's not. In fact, well, I just confirmed it because apparently they've casted Blue Bolt for season 2.
Okay.
So.
Got you.
Not that guy.
Wait, why would they cast him for season 2? He's already cast.
Not in season 1. Well, I guess the present day. I don't know.
He's in the flashback stuff.
Yeah, he's in the flashback.
Oh, okay. Well, it says Julian Hirsch.
Yeah.
Is
David Julian Hirsch.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's not mustache guy. That is not
all
mustache
right.
Guy.
Well,
season 2. I mean, I want. What do I want from this show? I'd love to explore the mythos since that was a more important thing to me. I'd love them to like just figure out the code thing pretty quick, because as much as they milked it and as ambiguous as what it was and its significance and everything, I got pretty tired of that because they were using that as kind of the moral fiber of the whole show, and it didn't feel like I didn't buy it. Right. And I want more Chloe. I want more Hutch. since there were some of the characters where the writing and the performance aligned to be good on screen. And I don't know, I feel like they're going to do some kind of thing where Sky Fox comes around and everybody knows he's good, and then Walter tries to kill Utopian, and Utopian doesn't want to kill him because killing's bad, and then Sky Fox has to get Walter, but he comes around and he says he's not going to kill him because now he thinks the code's good. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Like
I do expect Utopia to die for his ideals at some, like that seems like it's gunning for him to die for his code. Like to not break it and
but
die
even
for
that would just feel like all the other characters are like, well, should we just start killing people now? Or
the dick with the code's dead. We can do what we want now.
Yeah, Dad's dead, so I can do what I want. Eat junk food all night and kill people.
Here's a paragraph from just the Wikipedia here of the comic book, and this might have spoilers in it. I'm not sure, but here's the difference here. Sheldon, Grace divorced Sheldon because she can't live up to the perfect wife. This is like all way.
That would have been better.
This is in the 60s. This takes place in the 60s.
In the comics.
So like this is in the comics.
So the 60s is when all this has happened. Like the present day is in the 60s in the comics.
No, I don't think so. I think this is just a different
still
version.
Flashback era.
Okay.
Yeah, the comics are just much different, I guess.
Yeah.
So she divorces him in the 60s, and then modern day, Sheldon is a auto repair shop mechanic because he wants an honest day's work keeps one grounded, and he still has the moral code, and then he suspends Walter from the team because he dates a woman that he rescued from a fire.
See, that's a way more.
You're too close,
honestly,
Walter.
stuff.
You're too close to this.
You can't like honestly that part. Like, hey, you know what? We're superheroes. We realize that if we save someone's life, that like emotionally they are connected to us in a way that we can manipulate, and so we should not get close to that. That's an interesting code that I haven't seen in superhero movies before. That would be an interesting thing to play with.
Here's the last sentence I'll read. He also believes that superheroes should not unilaterally interfere in the actions of their government, but should obey their elected leaders, which puts him in conflict with Walter, who, along with Brandon, murders Sheldon. So there's some that seems much more interesting.
Yeah, they go into that part of the code, the government.
They do, like we don't get politically involved or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they had a few cops like, "Hey, good job, kid. We would have done the same." But like, I kind of wish we had
half-baked.
that BBS Superman courtroom scene. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, that's where more so than Superman, that actually belongs in this show where you have them at court. Why don't you interfere more? Why don't you, save these people's lives? Why don't you kill these people, these terrorists, X, Y, and Z? To me, that it's fine. It's in BBS, but it doesn't really belong there. Like just more so than here, though. That's what I would have added to the actual real world implications of the code, and not just how we feel about it as a group.
Or like make it be like, hey, like the code started as this simple thing of like, don't kill people, do what's right. And now it's like 60 pages, like the fucking, Constitution now, where they've added so many little codes over the years.
Get
the book out.
I think the code is a lot easier to uphold when you're fighting against just Joe Schmo robbing a deli. But when you're fighting against like actual supervillains who are killing people by the dozens and can actually
set himself off as
hurt you and inflict pain on you and your superhero team, I think the rules have to change a little bit there because, superheroes, it's easy for them to be, I'll just super speed around there and take the gun out of his hand and remove the threat. So there's no threat. So there's no reason to use lethal force. Problem solved. But if lethal force is always a part of the equation, it's just like, that's just war theory. Like it's not complicated.
Well,
so I think they've got to embrace nuance to the code.
Yes. To me, that's why the whole catalyst of the present day, which is him killing, Paragon killing the guy, and he's like literally like this. He will blow up and take out half the state, and you're not willing to do anything about it because like that just breaks down in all logical forms. Like it's like you got to have a really damn good reason for being that indoctrinated into a code You know what I mean? And like, I don't feel like they've given me enough reason to believe that this supposedly ideal superhero is just off in his own like weird, like you said, almost like fanatical religious world. Like it just doesn't connect to me. Like you just haven't given me enough reason to believe this character would be this way, you know?
Yeah, I really hope we all three. I mean, I'm going to watch season 2. I really hope you watch it, Daniel.
I'm willing
so
to.
So we can talk about it because I'm curious to see what we think after next season. Daniel, how can our listeners write into us?
You can write into bit.ly/241mail. Let us know what you thought of Jupiter's Legacy. Did we miss something? Because honestly, guys, the plot in the present day, we could just have missed something that was supposed to connect. I don't know. So and full honesty, I watched the whole show today and I'm having an issue. Okay, I marathoned this son of a bitch and I still am struggling. So it is fresh and it is not fresh. You know what I mean? So let us know. bit.ly/241mail. Please help me understand this.
Well, you're not alone. It's getting some negative reviews. It's got like a 34%. So and they haven't announced the season 2, so they may just blue ball me and not give me anything.
Yeah, well, like you said, this was like the first big step in the Mark Miller contractual big thing, right?
I'd be surprised if they break that.
They not confirmed season 2
No, they
yet?
can't. But
they have not.
I don't think they can do that. But I do think it could hamper the budgets of his things going forward. Potentially. I don't know. Like it sucks because I feel like Netflix was like, this is going to be our boys. This is going to be our Invincible. Like, this is our superhero deconstruction, big budget show, right? And then it kind of fell really flat. It's like they're going to have an issue with that. Like, Netflix is going to be upset with this, I think. The amount of marketing and stuff. Like,
I mean, maybe. I think, if they will be upset if it has tons of viewers and people, and the viewers. No, you're right. The viewers will dictate the market. And if you can't, hit up our Bitly, of course. Hit up our YouTube. Subscribe in the comments below if you haven't. Hit the subscribe button, the notification bell. That way you're up to date on all the cool things we do at 241 Studios, like 241 Collectors, 241 Backflash. And again, if you haven't, go check out Kapow Comics in Sherwood, Arkansas. They would love you to, Kapow. They would love it if you come by and buy a few comics, and you can actually probably buy some paperbacks of Jupiter's Legacy. So and kind of check it out for yourself. It sounds much different than what we're getting. It sounds probably interesting because Mark Miller is involved in this as like a producer and a writer. So you wonder why it's changing so much. But anyway,
studio.
I guess so. But they did have this. The original showrunner was Stephen DeKnight, who did, I think, the first season of Daredevil.
Netflix,
and which is incredible. Yeah. And he ended up leaving mid-production because of creative differences of this first season. So who knows? So that tells you right there, maybe a little hint.
Interessante.
Yeah, Daredevil turned out to be pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It did.
I don't know.
I bet he's sitting over in his office like, was I right? Was I right? Send a little cheeky email.
Maybe. Travis, thank you again for joining us. I know you're basically like just the third one now, almost, it feels like.
The third one.
The
That's what we're going to call you.
Rando super correspondent.
That's right.
Real quick, and we're going to get off here, but are you guys caught up on the Bad Batch? I still haven't watched first episode.
I'm not
yet.
caught up. No.
Oh, I'm caught up.
I need to catch the last 2 episodes.
We need to. I think our next episode might be Army of the Dead, and then we may do like first 4 episodes of that, because we have Loki coming up, and Loki had a great trailer. The official dropped today.
Oh my gosh, yeah!
And it looks so miss minutes, man. It's amazing.
My expectations are very high, and man, I'm hoping that doesn't end me. But like, Tom Hiddleston is just too perfect as Loki.
It looks like it's such a fun show.
Like, it's gonna be a comedy buddy cop Owen Wilson Loki movie. Owen Wilson's just playing himself again, which is great. Owen Wilson as himself is a good character.
Yeah, it's good.
And then Tom Hiddleston. Yeah,
the hype is very real, and every little kind of leak about the story and concept and quality is like overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's I'm
very
excited. Very excited.
Anyway, guys, my name is Donovan Thompson.
I'm Daniel Wingfield.
I'm Travis, and look out for my new comic. It's very new and experimental about Pluto's bad reputation. So check that out.
Yes.
Perfect. And we have
Pluto's
spoken.
cousins.